Good afternoon, everybody. Wow. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, here we are. So let's just get us started. It's great to see you all in this room, in our city and on our beautiful campus. So welcome to Tulane. My name is Agnieszka Nance. I am the Executive Director of the Center for Public Service here at Tulane, but I also serve here in the capacity of a board member of IARSLCE. And it's amazing to see all of you coming from all over the country and the world to our campus. So if we can start today's event, I'm going to invite my colleague Storm, and please stand up for land acknowledgement.
Osio, everyone. My name is Storm Wells, and I'm presenting on behalf and in solidarity with my Southeastern relatives, as I'm not Indigenous to Louisiana, but I am Indigenous to the Southeast. I'm asking that you look around and take time to acknowledge and pay tribute to the original inhabitants of this land. And the Choctaw, Chitimacha, and Homa, just to name a few. The city of New Orleans is the legacy of Bulbancha, a diverse Indigenous trade hub situated on the Mississippi River. Native people like the Chitimacha, Homa, and Choctaw have lived on this land since time immemorial, and the resilient voices of these communities remain an integral part of New Orleans' cultural history. It's with great honor that we acknowledge these people whose land we inhabit and whose lands we still live on, and who continue to thrive on the place and in the place we know as New Orleans. So, yes. Well,
thank you, Storm, so much. And now it is my great privilege, honor, and pleasure to invite to the podium Provost Dr. Foreman to welcome you all and offer a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnieszka, and thank you for that land acknowledgement. You know, I know it's true at many of our institutions, but here at Tulane and in New Orleans, the work we do is indistinguishable from where we do it, right? New Orleans matters so much to us. New Orleans history matters so much to us. So I'm pleased it's become more a part of our practice to remind ourselves about the history of this land from which we draw so much of our meaning. So with that said, welcome to the 24th Annual Conference of the International Association for Research on Service Learning and Community Engagement. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here. By the way, that was horrible. I always talk about tepid applause is worse than no applause at all. So you got to make up your mind. If you're going to applaud the conference, you should applaud. If not, okay. It's great, and it's great to see so many of you from around the world. And I've learned that this is your first in-person conference since 2019. So that's wonderful. Congratulations, and thanks for being here in New Orleans with us on our campus for this great occasion. As you all know, the mission of IARSLCE, and I've learned how to pronounce it since this morning, is to, quote, promote the development and dissemination of research on service learning and community engagement internationally and across all levels of the educational system. And this year's conference theme is redefining research, access, and inclusion in service learning and community engagement. And I'm so pleased to be hosting on our campus this conference because the theme of this conference aligns perfectly with Tulane's history and our values. And I just want to say a word about that. If you've been on our campus before, you know that we were founded in 1834, not as Tulane University, but as the Medical College of Louisiana. At that point, about half the nation's goods went up or down the Mississippi, and it all stopped in New Orleans. We were the fastest growing city in the country. But while we were importing goods from around the world, we were also importing diseases, especially tropical diseases from Latin America. And so we were founded as the Medical College of Louisiana to help the region deal with concerns about cholera, yellow fever, malaria. But from the very beginning, we were never an ivory tower. We were never a place where people came and did their research and published it, and that was the end of it. From our first days, our doctors were out in the community, working with community healthcare providers, working with elected officials, business folks, and all other community active leaders to make sure that we were, the work we did was having the impact we wanted in making our community safer. Since that time, we've been known for our distinctive commitment to our community, and it's part of everything we do. And let me just give you some examples. In 1987, our law school became the first law school in the country to mandate pro bono service for all of its law students. We're the only private university in the country that requires multiple service learning experiences for all of its graduates. We currently have an extraordinary program in community-engaged humanities doctoral research that's been funded by the Mellon Foundation, where our students are advised not only by one of our faculty, but in their doctoral advisory team, there must be a community member who plays a role of equal to the research advisor in making sure the work is firmly grounded in the principles of best practices for community engaged research. And of course, most significantly, we partnered with institutions across the city to help New Orleans return after the devastation of Katrina. I want to make just one point. I mentioned that the work of the conference aligns with our values. The word values was chosen, this is a little bit nerdy, you probably won't care about this part, but as a university administrator, I think about certain words like this. I didn't say it aligns closely with our mission, I said it aligns closely with our values. And the distinction between mission and values can be a blurry one. Mission is kind of what you do, values is how you do it, but it's not even entirely clear where, in some sense, from that perspective, where it falls. My general view is the mission are the things you're competing with others for. Your mission is to sell more shoes or to educate more students or something. And the values are the things you want to be able to share with others. So I always tell folks, if you're not sure whether something's part of your mission or part of your values, think about what happens if another person in your industry starts doing the same thing. Do you feel threatened? If you feel threatened, then it's part of your mission, because those are the things you're competing over. But if you feel gratified, then that's part of your values, because it's something you believe is in the collective good, and the more people who participate in it, the better. And so for us, service learning, community engaged work is definitely part of our values. And when we see other institutions embracing this work the way we do feel gratified, and we're thrilled to be able to play a part in supporting this effort and supporting IARSLCE. We've been very pleased to be the administrative home of IARSLCE for 15 years now. All of our work here, I should say, both in terms of providing administrative oversight, but also the work we do on campus that stretches through every school is all under the leadership of the remarkable Executive Director of Center for Public Service, Agnieszka Nance. So it is gratifying for us to be able to play whatever role we can play in helping other institutions grow their work in this area of service learning community engagement. We believe it's in the best interest of our students, in the best interest of our faculty, in the best interest of our communities. It's great to see so many of you involved in this work. And so with that said, I'm pleased to thank the IARSLCE Board of Directors, and under the leadership of Dr. Nicole Webster, I just had the pleasure for choosing to allow us to host you, and best wishes to all of you for a productive conference and an enjoyable stay here in New Orleans.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Well, that was kind of weak. Good afternoon. Okay. Well, I am so pleased to be standing in front of you this afternoon as the 2023 chair for IARSLCE. I am not going to call it by its full name, so here on out, you will hear me refer to it as IARSLCE. I've had the pleasure of serving in this role for the past year, but I have been engaged with IARSLCE since 2028, and then moved on the board soon afterwards. I made my way back on the board after some time from the encouragement of a very good friend a few years ago. It was her gentle nudging that encouraged me to come back to what she said was my home. And I hope for many of you, you find IARSLCE as your home. We know that you have many conferences from which you can choose, but we are so happy that you are here with us today.
Before we begin this conference, I would like to start with a new tradition for us in IARSLCE, and that is a labor acknowledgement. Some of you may have heard this on your campuses, but I think it is quite timely and appropriate given that we are in a state and in an area of the country that we know has had a contested history with its peoples and its land. In this acknowledgement, we commit to learning from the past, appreciating the present, and working together for a future where all labor is acknowledged, valued, and celebrated. So with that, I say, we must acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and in time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved individuals. Particularly in this area of the country, enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of the transatlantic trafficking of their people. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today. I want to thank Dr. T.J. Stewart for this powerful acknowledgement. And if you want to know more about land acknowledgements, or labor acknowledgements, excuse me, please come and see me afterwards. So with that, we invite the IARSLCE community to reflect on the importance of labor acknowledgement, just as we recognize the commitment to land recognition across campuses. It is crucial that we recognize the systemic injustices that have impacted historically marginalized and minoritized communities, while promoting greater awareness and understanding of social and historical issues that continue to impact our students and our communities. So with this, I say, I am delighted to welcome you all to the 24th Annual Conference of IARSLCE, whose mission is to promote research on service learning and community engagement. In order to highlight our mission and our theme this year of redefining research, access, and inclusion in service learning and community engagement, we decided to focus on these issues because we know that they are extremely important, timely, and felt by many of you across the globe. The theme of the conference serves to emphasize the importance of creating diverse and equitable research and learning environments that embraces all members of the community. We welcome you all to this over the next couple of days to engage in transformative dialogue that promises to reshape the landscape of service learning and community engagement. In our quest to redefine research, access, and inclusion, we embark on a journey that seeks to empower, elevate, and enrich our communities. The conference encourages an exploration of the wide ranges of approaches to service learning and community engagement that exist around the world. And I want to repeat that, exist around the world. We're probably one of the few organizations that really elevates how this is being done in ways that honors our communities around the globe. We welcome you to foster new collaborations and ideas and to share with one another. Before we dive into the heart of our conference, it is essential to take a moment to acknowledge the remarkable individuals who have tirelessly dedicated their time, expertise, and unwavering commitment to make this event a reality. So please stand when your name is called. The conference committee, Rochelle Harris, our conference chair. Sorry, Smar, said Harris. She was like, that's not me. From the University of California, San Diego, Susan Harris. From the University of Southern California, and Tiana Noble, our IARSLCE Executive Director. In addition to our conference committee, please stand if you were on one of the conference subcommittees. Content and proposal review. Yeah. Community tours. All right. Program and pre-conference session planning. And the keynote selection. We had a coordinated effort by over 22 university administrators, faculty members, and community partners to serve in the role as reviewers that has resulted in a program that has over 270 participants. This conference will feature 88 presenters and panels plus 38 posters, resulting in 126 works of scholarship. So for that effort, please, let's give them another round of applause. In addition to our committees, I would like to thank our sponsors. We believe your belief in our mission and your willingness to invest in our organization and this mission have made a significant impact. So when your organization is called, please stand or raise your hand. Center for Public Service at Tulane. Yes. University of San Diego. Give Pulse. Peace Corps. ACE Carnegie classification. And the 21 members of the Alliance for Engaged Universities and Colleges. Thank you again for your time and commitment and support. We know that you have many choices, so we want to thank you. We are also grateful to the Tulane University staff for making this event possible. Please accept our dearest thanks to Tulane's, thanks to Tulane Center for Public Service and the hospitality staff who've graciously opened up this space for us to use over the next couple of days. So please, let's give them a round of applause. And finally, we have a special thank you. And I'd like to thank personally, as well as the board, this person for their unwavering support, and that is Tiana Noble. She is the executive director. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. She's the executive director of IARSLCE, and she stepped into her role as executive director a little over a year ago. But the way that she has moved, shaped, and shimmied our organization over these past couple months has been amazing to watch, and I am deeply honored to be able to work with you. So we all say thank you. Now, we have our thank yous out of the way, but we owe one other group a big thank you. And that is for all of you all for making the journey to be here today. So let's give yourselves a round of applause. You will notice that there will be a slide rotating. Take that slide in. It shows all the presentations, where we're coming from all over the globe. We have individuals who've made 23, 24, 36-hour trips. So we just want to say thank you. We know it was a journey, and we're glad that you're here. All right, so now we're getting ready to transition into the heart of our morning. Are you all ready? Okay, let's try this again. I grew up in a culture where when someone asks you a question, you better answer. So are you all ready? All right, okay. Okay, I'm so pleased to be able to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon. It's an honor to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker, Dr. Samantha Francois. She is hometown bred. So for those of you from New Orleans, let's clap it up. She taught at Tulane. She taught at Tulane and last year was awarded the 2022 IARSLCE Early Career Award for her outstanding contributions to IARSLCE, or the field in general, as a faculty member. And she just shared with us that she's now at Clark University in Massachusetts. Dr. Samantha Francois received her doctorate in psychological sciences from Tulane University, where she formerly served as the executive director of Tulane University's Violence Prevention Institute and co-director of the Center for Youth Equity, a CDC Center of Excellence in Youth Violence Prevention. She is currently an associate professor of psychology at Clark University. Her areas of expertise are adolescent development, structural and neighborhood violence, and anti-racist research. Her opening keynote, we believe, is quite timely, and it's a conversation for us today on how universities sustain and grow their research, service learning, and community engagement while recommitting to racial equity and inclusion in admissions and enrollment. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Samantha Francois.
Greetings and good afternoon, everyone. I'm from the same culture where when you say greetings and good afternoon, you expect a response back. Greetings and good afternoon. Yes, thank you. First, let me say that I am sincerely and genuinely honored for the gracious consideration and invitation to serve as the opening keynote speaker for the IARSLCE. Thank you to Provost Foreman and Dr. Webster for the pronunciation, because I did not know it before a few minutes ago. And I have to also thank upfront Dr. Miriam Hewitt from Tulane University's Center of Public Service, for whom, if it had not been for her seeing me and the way in which I do my work as a researcher activist, that I would not be standing here before you. So thank you, Dr. Hewitt. So with that, I want to also, before I dive in, introduce my positionality up front in terms of who I am and where I'm coming from as I share my thoughts around the title of this talk. Because I think that's important, right? We, for those of us who work in the social sciences or other forms of sciences, we operate from this myth of objectivity. I think there is a growing evolution around and recognition for the ways in which that is a myth. And I think a part of presenting one's and placing one's positionality in the work is recognizing the ways in which knowledge is subjective and it is co-constructed. So in terms of my positionality, some of that, the pieces of that I think are important was mentioned in Dr. Webster's introduction. I am a native New Orleanian. I was born and raised here, grew up not far from this campus. I identify as a Black woman. And I identify myself in terms of my professional and career life as a community engaged researcher and scholar activist. And as you hear and engage with what I'm going to share with you this morning, it's all situated in those positions and identities. So with that, I am honored to stand before you today to talk about how universities sustain and grow their commitment to research, service learning, and community engagement, while also recommitting to racial equity and inclusion in higher education. The title of my talk, as you can see, is Universities Redefining Service Learning and Community Engagement in a Race-Neutral Milieu. I want to start by advancing the notion that race neutrality is a myth. I want to believe that it goes without saying that we live in a society and a world where we acknowledge that racism, from the systemic to the interpersonal, is part and parcel to contemporary human existence. However, from political power holders to university administrators to students in our classrooms, there is a renewed denial of and attempted erasure of the significance of race and racism in all social structures, not least of all in our educational institutions. In higher ed specifically, we continue to see underrepresentation of Black, Indigenous, and Latinx students enrolling in and graduating from US colleges and universities. Recent National Center of, Recent National Center of Education Statistics report that the overall college enrollment rate for 18 to 24-year-olds decreased by 41%, decreased from 41% in 2010 to 38% in 2021. Even with an overall declining enrollment, the college enrollment in 2021 was higher for 18 to 24-year-olds who identified as Asian at 60%, than for those who identified as white at 38%, Black at 37%, of two or more races at 35%, Hispanic at 33%, and American Indian, Alaska Native at 28%. However, there is an enduring and stark racial ethnic disparity in college enrollment. We see the same disparity patterns right here at Tulane University. So what? Why am I advancing the notion that this matters? Well, colleges and universities are a microcosm of our global society. And it's within these institutions that we have a unique opportunity to interact with people from a myriad of backgrounds. Through these interactions, we gain deeper understanding of the world, challenging our preconceived notions, and broadening our horizons. Racial and ethnic diversity in particular in our institutions of higher ed enriches student learning by encouraging an appreciation of and respect for difference. An appreciation that is essential, an essential cornerstone of fostering an equitable and just society. In an inclusive, diverse higher ed environment, students, faculty, staff, and administrators have the opportunity to engage with people from all walks of life. And it is in these interactions that real growth and understanding can occur. It's in the classrooms where ideas clash and coalesce, in residence and dining halls where lifelong friendships are forged, and in faculty and administrative meetings where structural transformation to achieve equity and inclusion can be realized with and for the diverse populations within that institution. Critically, when I speak of diversity, I'm talking about more than just a collection of students, faculty, staff, and administrators from different racial, ethnic, immigrant, or socioeconomic backgrounds. It is also about acknowledging and reckoning with historical and present-day oppression and privilege, authentically engaging with the perspectives, experiences, and ideas that everyone brings to the table, particularly those members of the institutional community from marginalized and oppressed oppressed social identity groups. As Paulo Freire radically argued over 50 years ago, and this is a quote, "The pedagogy of the oppressed as a humanist and libertarian pedagogy has two distinct stages. In the first, the oppressed unveil the world of oppression and through the praxis, commit themselves to its transformation. In the second stage, in which the reality of oppression has already been transformed, this pedagogy ceases to belong to the oppressed and becomes a pedagogy of all people in the process of permanent liberation," end quote. Therefore, liberatory pedagogy cannot be achieved without the work of all. While the determination of the liberation agenda, the need for it, and the nature of it starts with the oppressed. So not long ago, we saw a significant policy change that I think matters in the context of how universities and higher ed institutions are redefining and recommitting themselves to service learning and community engagement. Legislated affirmative action became a vital component of the diversity landscape in colleges and universities. It had been a national policy that sought to level the playing field, ensuring that underrepresented and historically marginalized groups had equal opportunities in higher education. Affirmative action policy acknowledged that race and gender-based disparities in higher ed existed and aimed to address them through proactive recruitment, financial aid, scholarships, and admission policies. However, as most, if not all of us in this room now know, the US Supreme Court ruled race-conscious admissions at 2 universities to be unconstitutional, thereby paving the way to chip away at or even eliminate proactive measures colleges and universities put in place to address disparities in student admissions, enrollment, retention, and graduation. What does this mean for academic institutions as they now prioritize equity, diversity, access, and inclusion? Particularly when so many of our colleges and universities continue to look like this. While affirmative action had been a contentious policy and left a lot to be desired in its aim to reduce or eliminate disparities, it did play a crucial role in building diverse academic communities and forcing these institutions to contend with racial representation, inclusion, justice, and equity. It is not accidental that over the past 3 years, while there has been a groundswell of attention to and investment in justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy, policy, and action across sectors, there's been a simultaneous public policy agenda from the local to the federal level to stamp out systemic and structural efforts to achieve transformative equity in our institutions, particularly in our schools, colleges, and universities. While justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion work in institutions of higher education does and should cut across all campus units, I contend that service learning and community engagement are 2 areas where colleges and universities are uniquely positioned to reimagine their commitment to racial and ethnic diversity and inclusion in its hallowed halls, if not, are obligated to do so. So again, as most of us in this room likely know, higher ed is not just about textbooks and lectures. It's a place where we co-construct new knowledge from an existing knowledge base and learn to apply that knowledge for the betterment of our communities, society, and the world. So for example, the psychology major, because I know a little bit about psychology, is not just simply here to learn Piaget's theory of cognitive development. They are here to critically examine that theory for its relevance in child development research, elementary school education, and even effective parenting. Service learning is a powerful tool that allows us to do just that, whether direct, indirect, research-based, or advocacy-based, as described by Jacoby in their 2015 writing. Service learning is an essential component of a college experience. It is the bridge that connects academic pursuits with real-world impact. In service learning, students and faculty alike put our education into practice by engaging in projects that address real community need. It is how we tangibly reject the notion that those who can't do, teach. Service learning also involves putting our academic skills and knowledge to the test by applying them to address real-world challenges. I would guess that several in this room have had firsthand experience with bringing the theoretically grounded, thoroughly researched, evidence-based, best practice to a school, healthcare facility, or the like, and needing to rethink and rework the entire plan or approach, given the reality of an organization's capacity, personnel, resources, client base, and so on. By actively participating in service learning, students learn the need for adaptability and flexibility, and the skills to do so. And most importantly, they come to know through experiential service learning that we do not have all the answers. It requires us, and in some cases forces us as academics, to share power and or yield power to community-based experts and expertise. Through service learning, we learn community academic partnership. It fosters a sense of social responsibility in university constituencies that not only serves to benefit the communities we serve, but also molds students, faculty, staff, and administrators into socially conscious individuals, better equipping them to address the complex issues our society faces today. Now, you might be asking, because I was at this point when preparing this talk, what's the connection between racial and ethnic diversity on our campuses and service learning? Well, I think the answer is quite simple. Racial and ethnic diversity on our campuses enriches service learning, and service learning deepens our understanding of diverse communities, particularly racially, ethnically, and socioeconomically marginalized populations. So let's take a look back at Tulane University as a case example. We saw in an earlier slide that over 60% of Tulane's undergraduate student body identify as white, while a mere 7% identify as Black or African American. The city of New Orleans racial makeup, in the city of New Orleans, 85% of public charter school students identify as Black, while only 8% identify as white. The city's racial makeup is similarly distinct from Tulane's, where 58% of the city's population identify as Black or African American, and 33% identify as white. Though these percentages don't tell the whole story, they do illustrate the fact that most of Tulane University students are coming from backgrounds that are qualitatively different from the people and communities with whom they aim to and or are doing service learning with in this city. The history and present day realities of the complexities of the racial and cultural differences between Tulane University and other universities like it across the nation, and the communities that they sit in, are beyond the scope of my talk and the time allotted. Still, I want to emphasize that when predominantly white students and predominantly white university constituencies engage in service learning in predominantly Black communities and other communities of color, they are directly exposed to the realities faced by people from diverse backgrounds and existences that often in no way mirror their own. Service learning opportunities will then require them to leave an academic bubble that reinforces and privileges whiteness and middle and upper middle class realities and pushes them to engage a deeper understanding of the assets, power, needs, and struggles of marginalized communities and their roles in perpetuating and undoing that marginalization. But what if our campuses truly had a wealth of representation in the people and pedagogy that mirrored that of the communities in which they sit? What if colleges and universities realized in their missions and strategic priorities a responsibility to equity and justice at the local level? Can this be achieved in the absence of or the rolling back of tangible efforts to bring greater racial and ethnic diversity to our campuses? I think not. Community engagement is a thread that can tie together the need for diverse and inclusive campuses and service learning. By engaging with our local communities, universities make tangible impact through training and education opportunities for local communities, service learning in community, volunteering in public service, doing internships or practicum experiences in and with community, conducting community engaged research, or being part of community advocacy. If we follow the thread that links campus diversity to community engagement, in order for it to be successful, meaningful, authentic, and transformative, university community engagement must be culturally responsive. This means, one, the university's community engagements begin with ways of knowing based on the community as told by the community. University representatives must position themselves as active listeners in dialogue with community, rather than as experts in place to act on or decide for the community. Two, the university must advance the possibility for linking with community cultural norms, values, and experiences to the interventions, programs, projects, the work. This results in community buy-in, authentic relationship building, collaborative partnership, and sustained engagement and change. And third, the university constituents must consider the social conditions, structural and systemic context of the community's pain points in order to enhance their understanding and ultimately their effectiveness in community engaged work. Culturally responsive community engagement is an ongoing praxis, a continuous reflection, action, reflection process that scrutinizes one's own narrative and heightens one's own consciousness to resist oppression and promote justice. Culturally responsive community engagement looks like university constituents asking themselves of their community engaged work questions like this. What am I assuming about the community's situation? Where do my assumptions come from? Am I making judgments about this community's actions, attitudes, beliefs? On what norms, beliefs, values are these judgments based? When my norms, beliefs, values are different from the community's, am I using that difference to impose a deficit-based approach or to be reflexive and operate from a strengths-based approach? Culturally responsive community engagement validates cultural beliefs, traditions, and practices, and embraces what works in the community and integrates that with academic-based knowledge and expertise. Culturally responsive community engagement emphasizes a commitment to lifelong reflexivity, self-evaluation, and learning that aims to redress power imbalances inherent in university community relations. We can also organize and understand university community engagement through heuristic tools like Arnstein's ladder of participation or the Department of Health and Human Services continuum of community involvement. Both offer insights into the range and complexity of ways in which university engagements with community can promote or undermine equitable sharing of decision-making power and responsibilities between academic and community partners. While community engagement may be achieved during a time-limited project, it frequently involves and often evolves into long-term partnerships that move from the traditional focus on a single issue or project to address a range of social, economic, political, and environmental factors to effect change. In short, community engagement allows us to take what we've learned in the classroom and apply it directly to the challenges facing the communities we serve. By working together with community members, we gain a deeper understanding of assets and needs, fostering a sense of shared purpose. It's through this process that we become active agents of change and part of communities empowered to make that change. I argue that this cannot be done separate from colleges and universities, committing and recommitting to growing the representation of racially and ethnically minoritized folks across all of its constituencies, students, faculty, staff, and administrators. The synergy of college diversity, service learning, and community engagement is where we find true potential. When we combine the power of diverse perspectives, the action-oriented nature of service learning, and culturally responsive community engagement, we become catalysts for transformation. We see problems from a multitude of angles and use our education to drive meaningful change. We apply our knowledge not only for our personal growth, but for the betterment of society at large. We engage with our local communities to create lasting partnerships that can lead to innovative solutions to longstanding issues. College diversity, service learning, and community engagement are not isolated concepts. They are interconnected and interdependent, forming a powerful trinity of personal and societal growth. Over the next 2 days, we have the exciting opportunity to thoughtfully advance our knowledge and practice in community engaged work. There are sessions titled Including the Voices and Recognizing the Skills of Students of Color in Community Engaged Pedagogy, Flipping the Alignment Script, Attracting and Retaining Community Engaged Scholars, Pedagogical Approach to Service Learning at Tulane University, Intent versus Impact, and Mining the Messiness, Examining the Nature of Productive Discomfort in students' community engaged learning experiences and their lessons learned, to name and highlight just a few. Now, are these the sessions that I'll be attending? Possibly. That was an easy list for me to create. Nevertheless, as we go forward to engage in our critical and transformative learning, sharing, networking, and building, it is vital to appreciate the profound impact that college diversity has on community engaged learning and scholarship. The experiences we gain in racially and ethnically diverse spaces stand to shape our effectiveness or ineffectiveness in service learning and other community engaged praxis. Let us carry with us the belief that racial and ethnic diversity makes us stronger, and culturally responsive community engagement makes us better. Let us be the agents of change, the advocates for justice, and the champions of equity. Let our actions speak volumes. Let our empathy drive our decisions. Let our commitment to making our communities better unwavering. College diversity and community engaged scholarship are not merely academic ideals. They are the cornerstone of a vibrant and just society. And we, as university constituents, have the power to mold this future. I want to end with a quote from Dr. Gordon DeCruz, a community engaged scholar. Dr. Gordon DeCruz wrote in 2018, "In the context of our diverse and inequitable nation, it is now more crucial than ever for U.S. higher ed institutions to fulfill their public purposes. With complex issues to address, like the racially disproportionate use of police force, differential access to clean air and other shared resources, and unjust outcomes in public education, we need university and community experts collaborating to develop knowledge that can alleviate these problems." Thank you.